Hey, everybody. Welcome to Military Monday. Today's August the 5th, 2024. My name is Bob Wheeler, and I'm with Sara McMurrough. We're from ClearedJobs.Net, and we are going to be talking about some tips for military transitioning folks, people who are coming from the military into the private sector. Maybe you're still active duty now. Maybe you just recently got out, or maybe you just want to pick up some tips anyway. But the focus of today's little webinar is how to leverage job fairs in your military transition. So we're going to talk about job fairs from that veteran perspective. Like I said, my name is Bob Wheeler. I've been with ClearedJobs.Net for about 10 years now. Was in the Navy for 20 years. Most of that time was as a hospital corpsman. I still live down by Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Still very connected to the active duty communities down here. So always happy to bring some tips and some experiences that we've got to bring to you guys so that we can answer some of your questions. Sara, you want to say hello to everybody?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Sara McMurrough. I've been here for about 9 years now. I was also in the military, so I was in the Army National Guard. Met my husband at our officer basic course. So, I'm still very much connected to the military myself and look forward to sharing what, we've learned over the years working with other veterans and, just our own experiences about job fairs.
Yeah, and so if you're live with us, I know this gets recorded as well, but if you happen to be live with us on LinkedIn or something like that, and you want to give us a shout out, let us know, where you are in the world, where you are in your career as we go through here. If we get any questions, we can try to answer those if they happen to be good fits for the thing, and if not, we can answer them later on. But we love to get some feedback if you happen to be on us live, and if not, then you can. This gets recorded, so it's good information that we like to bring to everybody that we feel is kind of evergreen. It's the kind of stuff that you can take with you. But job fairs, Sara, we've both been to job fairs. As when we were coming out of the military, we still go to job fairs a lot now because we host job fairs and things like that. We talk to job seekers. These are really important, aren't they? I mean, they can be such a good thing just overall.
Right, they definitely can. And it can be a little bit of, earlier in your, I suppose, transition, maybe you're doing them, for practice, just learning what it's like to go out and talk to companies. Or maybe you're at the point where you're doing the job fairs and it's because you're ready to start working in a couple of months. But there's so much value in those, those connections that you can make. And again, that practice.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about types of job fairs. We're going to talk about, what to wear when you go to job fairs, when you should go to these job fairs, give you some tips on, before you attend, after you attend, all that kind of stuff. A lot of different things we're going to do. But as always with our Military Monday stuff, we like to try to keep our stuff focused as much as we can to be very veteran specific, because there's a lot of good tips about job fairs out there. We want to talk about some stuff that's veteran specific. And one of the things, the reason we bring this to you is because we do see a lot of people that go to job fairs, and sometimes they mistake action for progress. They just kind of go, and sometimes it's not the best experience, but a lot of times there's things that you could do to make that better. So these are the ways that we're going to kind of attack this problem right there. So types of job fairs. This is what they are. We're going to break it down: geographic specific, industry specific, and then some like diversity characteristic type stuff. Let's start with geographic type stuff, Sara. What kind of things are we talking about with a geographic specific job fair?
So they might be events that are, near a base. Like I live close to Fort Liberty, so I do events there that are very just focused on that area. There are companies from the area that come in and, they're presenting opportunities that are available within that company there in that geographic area. Maybe some schools, right? There are a lot of universities. I speak specifically to the Fort Liberty area, but Fayetteville State, I think, Fayetteville Tech, are a couple of schools that are close to here, and local police departments, those types of things. So very specific to the area.
Yeah, and you see these if you're active duty, you'll see these a lot. Like Sara said, you'll see a lot of them on base, on post or something like that. And they'll be like, hey, MWR, MCCS, whatever the acronym is for your service, is hosting a job fair at the field house or at the officers club or something like that. Other things might be off post as well. But if they're to a specific local area, they're really going to be focused on looking for jobs in that local area. And so even some of those big name companies that might be there, you might see, huge government contractors. You might see the, Booz Allen's, General Dynamics, all that kind of stuff. Oftentimes, the people who are behind those tables are more along the lines, not like the national recruiter, but are going to be more along the lines of the local program manager who happens to work there because they're focused on that area. So that's a geographic specific thing. Also, we can do things that you see industry specific things. So these are going to be all over the country, but the focus of the thing might be like a healthcare, security cleared, which is what I do. We do job fairs. Sarah and I work with ClearedJobs.Net. All of our events focus on people's security clearances. So that's a industry specific type thing. Could be cybersecurity, aviation, you kind of name it. Obviously, these are the kind of things that are great if you're in that industry. Sarah, do you want to kind of expand on that, what you might see at an industry-specific job fair and what that means to a veteran?
Right. So say, you saw a cyber event in the area and it looked interesting to you, but your military background is infantry. And you went to that cyber event and you thought, well, this is going to be great because I'm going to be visiting a job fair. But then you might walk away and say, "Wow, I didn't make any good connections. This was a waste of my time." And, what if at that point, then you, as the veteran, say, you know what, I don't want to do any more job fairs because I wasted my time. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to the type of event that it is and choosing something that is specific to your background. When you talk about the security cleared ones, if you have a security clearance, then that one probably makes sense for you. But some of them are more specific to areas of even the security cleared industry. We've seen that as well.
And so what that brings to mind is that the jobs that the recruiters that are there, they're trying to fill those types of positions. So our events, security cleared, job fairs that we happen to do, a lot of the companies that are there presenting and they've got their booth set up, they may have positions that don't require clearance as well at that company, but the recruiters who are there are not focused on those things. They are specifically there because they want to see that type of a person. So, as you go in this, and remember, veteran is not an industry. Veteran describes what we are coming out of there, but it's not, nobody hires you because you are a veteran. They might be looking at veterans for a different reason. We're going to jump into that in a second. But veteran itself is not a specific industry. It's more of a characteristic. Sarah, you want to talk about characteristic specific type job fairs to include the veteran ones?
Sure. Yes, so we definitely see those ones, and I can speak to the veteran and the student ones. I went to Penn State many moons ago, and I went to student job fairs, and it was more for internships and that type of thing. But, if you were a senior in your career, the student job fair probably wasn't the greatest fit. But as veterans for the veteran job fairs, I've attended those again as a veteran, but I've also attended those representing ClearedJobs.Net to visit with veterans and kind of help them in their transition. So, they're all different ones. We see, some that are, women in cyber or women in IT types of job fairs. So they're all different kinds of job fairs out there. So what's really important is do your research. But, like Bob has on the screen, the reps at those particular events are usually more talking about the company as a whole. It's very big picture, not necessarily, they have, these 6 positions that they have to fill.
Yeah, you see a lot of the big companies, especially, will have veteran liaisons. I know that I've been to some even when I was transitioning out, although it was a few years ago, but I went to some veteran specific job fairs, and so it was a huge event, lots of booths and everything there. But every booth there was very much, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but they were there from the PR perspective and from the way of like, we want to let you know that we're veteran friendly. So the people behind the booth, they could speak, their knowledge of their openings was, a mile wide and an inch deep. They could tell you a lot about the company, but if you walked up saying, well, I'm looking at a specific position, they probably couldn't answer that because they have to, we do other webinars about the hiring process. There's different recruiters that handle different things. So when you go to those more characteristic specific events, yeah, you're going to see lots of people. They're going to be focused on the big picture. So the reason we bring this up is because, like we said when we first started, if you go to an event and you're not really sure what to expect, you may get something you didn't expect, and then you feel like that maybe that wasn't worth it type thing. But if you know what you're getting yourself into, you can prepare for the right things. So those are some of the main ones. But then there's also another one that wasn't on our beginning slide there, virtual events, Sarah. And we have virtual events at ClearedJobs.Net, but break it down for us what a virtual event is and what we can really expect from those as a veteran.
So virtual events are actually really great for veterans because it is not unusual for someone coming out of the service to be open to maybe more locations or not be located in the places they want to land, right? You are stationed at Fort Liberty and maybe you have plans to move back to Florida, close to family or something. So doing a job fair where you're located isn't always going to be the best option for you. So virtual events have really picked up speed, since COVID, that they've become quite a bit more popular. But what's really great is they kind of cover, well, not even a specific area. So all over the place. There might be positions for jobs in, Virginia, California, Florida, all over the place. So it's a great opportunity to sit where you are and be able to talk to recruiters that are hiring managers that are all over the country. And, what's really nice too is you don't have to get like real fancy. You can get like dressed nice from the top, to about the middle here. Cause I'll tell you, I have on jean shorts right now. No one knows that, right? And socks, not even shoes. So you can be professional in the top half and just be ready because a company can say, you know what, do you have time to switch to a call or can we switch to a video? And it might even be with a hiring manager. So there's so much value in these virtual events, being able to talk about positions all over.
Yeah. The only thing I would caution people, not caution's not even the right word, but there's a lot of making the virtual events work as far as the video things and stuff like that. Um, get a chance if there's any training that they have for those things so that you can figure it out so you're prepared, but also know that it may be clunky for the recruiters too, and especially the hiring managers, the program managers. Like I said, that we've done other webinars where we remind you that a program manager is not really a recruiter. They've got a regular job that they're doing. A lot of times on these virtual events, they will bring on those types of people to talk with you because they really want to. But if they didn't get the training, it might be just a little bit clunky on their end. That's not a bad thing. I'm just bringing it up so that you can kind of like know that you could expect it. It's not a big deal. But that could very well be the person you really want to be talking to. And these organizations who do the virtual events, they're prepared to see someone from, oh, you're in Korea, oh, you're in Okinawa, you're in Italy, you're in, Arizona for jobs. They kind of are expecting those things at a virtual event because they know that it covers nationwide stuff. So I do think that virtual events, weren't as popular 15 years ago, but like Sarah said, after COVID, for a while after COVID, that's all you could do. And now we've got it kind of laid out to where most people have got this figured out. So they're certainly worth checking out. Now, one of the most common questions we get is like, when should I start attending job fairs? Or people just say, when should I start looking for a job? Kind of goes, we've broken it out here about what you should be doing a year out, 6 months out, 3 months out. Sarah, when you're a year or more out, what should a veteran be? How should they be looking at job fairs?
Well, I talked a little bit about practice earlier. A really great opportunity to get out there and start learning how to talk to companies. And maybe finding out if you have an opportunity to talk with a hiring manager, especially, and that person is in the area of the industry that you want to be, maybe a company you may ultimately be interested in, you might learn about some of the things that you might be missing. So, your background cyber, and maybe there are a couple of certifications you could work on for that last year. That's a great opportunity to learn about those things. And like Bob typed here, mistakes don't cost you much. It's nice and early. They're not expecting you to be perfect just yet. You're not expecting a job that day, but you can get out there and just start making, some, I guess, early connections, starting to find out what you're missing. What do you need to do for the next year?
Yeah, and that like Sarah said, the ability to say, this is what I've got on my resume. What should I be doing in the next year? You get a chance, especially if there's a hiring manager or a program manager there, to really ask that question from somebody who can give you some honest advice, and they're more than happy to talk to you. That's a really great thing. Now, when you get to about 6 months out from your EAS, or your EAS is end of active service for Navy and Marine Corps. I guess Sarah, we were talking a little bit different acronym, maybe for different branches. So if you're in the other branch, I apologize on that. But when you're about 6 months out from getting out, now you can start really work on making a connection with some of these recruiters. Recruiters, they move around a lot, but within 6 months, you want to connect with those folks and really start identifying companies and contacts. You kind of up in your game. And this is where, if you've been doing this for a year, by the time you get to the 6 months, you're a lot more comfortable when it's starting to matter more. Right, Sarah, why don't you talk us, anything to add to the 6 months? And if not, just go ahead and talk about when you get to about 3 months, where we should be.
Well, I think the only thing I would bring up specifically is LinkedIn. If you haven't already created your profile, and hopefully at a year out you have, but those are where those connections really start working for you, right? Because it's like that big giant Intel spider web where, you connect with one person and that helps you connect with another person. And that's really important. And the closer you get to, from the year to the 6 months to the 3 months is where those become increasingly more important. So keep working on that. That's a work in progress type of thing. But once you get to those 3 months, now you can really start talking about specific positions because, especially if you're looking in the contracting industry, they're oftentimes able to project knowing that, there's an award due in, 2 months, 3 months, and that you may be a good fit for a certain type of position that they have in that contract. So, or they're projecting an opening because of something else. So it's just a little bit easier. It's hard at a year out for them to know what positions are going to be open. But once you have that 3 month, hit that 3 month mark, it's a little bit more realistic to be able to line something up.
Yeah. And so big picture out of this, the earlier you start, the better. You're only going to get better at it. And the more you go to those things, when it really gets down to crunch time where it's really going to matter, you're going to be closer to the top of your game. You're not going to be making some of the same mistakes. All right. So what to wear to a job fair? We in our little pre-webinar meeting here, we were just talking about fashion statements and how, like people in the military, you may not have a lot of clothes. You've been used to just putting on your uniform every day for the last 4, 10, 20 years, whatever, however long it's been. So sometimes people, they let that fashion thing be the reason they don't go to job fairs, but there is some guidelines here. I mean, Sarah, can you wear your uniform to a job fair? When can you? When can't you? When should you? What's going on with that?
I'd say even if an event is on post, especially during the duty day, uniform is fine, right? That's what you're in. Oftentimes events are hosted, so they're kind of covering the lunch hour. So it's okay to, and not implying everyone gets a lunch hour, you know what I mean? But if
Yeah.
you can take some time at lunch to head over and do a job fair, the expectation is a lot of people will have on a uniform. If you are doing an event off post, the recommendation is not your uniform. If you don't have anything else to wear, that could be acceptable. But I know branches of service are also, there are some rules about when you should be wearing your uniform and which one. So, you have to, of course, adhere to those regulations as well. But, there are organizations out there that can help you if you don't have professional attire for job fairs. And, LinkedIn, I see a lot of different ones. I think there's so I can't even think of what they're called. That I would be I don't want to give any examples. I can't even think
Yeah.
of what they are, but Google it. There are some options out there of companies that can help you to get a suit or something appropriate because we don't want you to wear that suit that you bought 15 years ago for your cousin's wedding because
Yeah.
it probably doesn't fit, probably doesn't look good. You're better off grabbing a pair of slacks and a button down or a collared shirt, look a little more professional than a
Yeah.
suit that doesn't fit. What do you think, Bob?
I think that the last bullet there looked like you planned on being there. That's the big thing.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
do the best that you can. Don't mix and match. Don't wear your shiny core form, shoes from your dress uniform with your slacks and stuff like that. Don't put together half of your uniform and half a civilian attire. But don't freak out if you don't have a suit. Just wear your church clothes is what they might say, type thing. Just look like you planned on being there. Um, if you are in a position where you need to be in a suit, start thinking about it. But don't go spending $1 million, on a suit if it's not really needed. All right, let's talk about some things that you can do before the event. So when you're going to go to an event, you've seen it online, you've registered, you've done all your stuff. It's, if you just found out about it 5 minutes ago and you walk past it, and that's all you can do, that's fine. But if you've got some time, there's some things that you can do. And probably the biggest thing, Sarah, is reviewing the companies that are going to be there and just knowing who's going to be there besides just knowing it's a job fair, right?
Right, exactly. And I even see people that if they hadn't planned on being there, but they kind of showed up at the event, taking some time before they walk in, going through the handbook if the vendor offers a handbook, and doing a little research even just for a few minutes beforehand. But, knowing how to prioritize, who do you definitely want to talk to because you've looked at the positions that they have available, that these companies X, Y, and Z are probably the best fit. You want to prioritize your time to talk to those, right? So, and that doesn't mean don't talk to anyone else, but use your time wisely and use the recruiters and hiring managers' time wisely as well, right?
Yeah. We've got this pulled up here because I know at our events, we not only list the companies that are going to be there, but we also we ask the companies beforehand, like, what are your hot positions? What are you really looking for? And this isn't like an all inclusive list, but they tell us what they're really looking for the most. So if you, before you go, take a look at this stuff and you might be surprised. I mean, the reason we've got this slide from an event earlier this year, General Dynamics IT, which makes you think to yourself, oh, that's information technology. And you might think to yourself, well, I don't do IT stuff, so why should I go talk to them? Well, just a few months ago at one of our events, look at some of these positions that General Dynamics IT was looking for. Everything from, admin assistants to motor vehicle operators, I mean, staff officer positions there. That's basically like any mid to junior level officer. You can want to be talking about
Right.
that. So that covers a lot of stuff that maybe you would have thought to yourself, oh, well, that's not me. But when you go through this stuff, you walk up to the person at the event, and then you can have something to talk about, right, Sarah?
Exactly. You could say, I noticed there's a position for a staff officer open in McLean. I'd love to learn more about the position. And then they'll probably in turn ask you about your background. And then the conversation can start to flow. And that helps everyone get a little more comfortable too. Because this might be your first job fair. Maybe you're a little nervous. So having something to talk about can make it much more relaxing and a much less scary
Yeah, and even if you
conversation.
look at this and you stop by, because you should probably talk to everybody at a job fair because it's just good practice for everything. If you look at their hot positions and it's nothing to do with you, you can walk up, and when you walk up and say, "Look, I reviewed your positions. It doesn't look like everything listed for a logistician or a cyber, chemical, biological, radiological technician. Whatever you do." Just showing that you've read that helps get a good conversation going. But sometimes they might say, well, we actually do look for those things as well. And especially if you are in that year out phase, you've got a lot of time,
Right.
you're still learning about the company. So this is what's hot now, what they really need now. These are the program managers that they brought to speak to people today, but you can still ask about other things too. So don't let this sway you away from going to talk to people. But man, if you see something on there that is exactly what you do, that's what you want to start your conversation with. 100%. All right. Job fair resume, Sarah. I mean, we always hear make sure your resume matches the job. Which is legit good advice. But how does that impact us for job fairs?
I would say for a job fair, this is where you want to actually have a more general, more broad resume because, again, you have different companies that are looking for different things, and you might have a little bit of a diverse background too. So you don't want to tailor your job to, specifically target one position that you were looking at because that's what you really, really want. Where you find out that there are other positions that maybe are of interest to you and you omitted things from your resume because you tailored it to something else. So have yourself a really nice, broad resume that kind of touches on everything you've done, with those key terms and things that you can talk through too. Because remember, you're going up to these companies and having conversations. You can always expand on things that are in your resume. You can give them that more targeted information if they ask for it, but you want to be able to present something to the companies that at least a couple of those things are relevant, right? And something that you can talk about with them.
Yeah, and at events like ours, when you register for a job fair with ClearedJobs.Net, your resume goes to every one of those companies, in a special file that they can search for. Even if you can't make it to the event in person, your resume still goes to all of those companies. So if it's an event that's got 30 companies, that's 30 companies getting your resume. So this is where you want to take that summary section, which is usually the section right up at top, put a little real meat to it of saying, this is what I do. This is where I'm at. This is where I live. This is where I'm looking for a job. And this is when I expect to get out. This is my clearance, those types of things in there, because this way of, you don't really know who's going to read it, but it's going to get sent to lots of different companies. So that's why you want to kind of keep it broad. If at some point you apply for a specific position, or you absolutely tailor it back down like you're supposed to. Like that last bullet says, it's when you do your follow up for a specific job, you're going to tailor it down. But for a job fair, which same for a job board type stuff, kind of cover a little bit of everything.
Right. And I think one thing that we should probably mention about that too is for the job board and the job fairs, it's searchable by key term. And why that's important is that's where you want to have all the different terms that are related to the different things in your background. Because the recruiter may have 600 resumes to review in that file. So you best have, the as many terms as you can about different parts of your background so your resume is going to come up in their search.
Yeah. Yeah. Good points there. So now we've done talk about what to do before you get there, how you put your resume together. Now, while you're there, there's a lot of stuff that you can really do to make this worth your time. And I think the biggest thing is to take advantage of everything, to don't not hurry yourself through. So let's break this down, Sarah. What are we talking about here with, additional events and services and things like that?
So specifically with ClearedJobs.Net, and I know some other job fairs have these options, we have oftentimes someone there to review resumes. So before you even go to the job fair, you go talk to a professional who writes resumes, reviews resumes for a living. They'll go through your resume with you, and if you're missing something, at the very least, you can, have talking points, when you go to those companies and then make those updates on your resume before you send them out. But also, we have recruiter roundtables at some of our events where recruiters will talk about different things in recruiting to help you as the job seeker to be a better job seeker.
Yeah. And this again, going back to the why you should start going a year out, all these extra things are only what's going to make it better as you go through. Um, Once you're there, also talk to as many booths as possible. There's no reason to not talk to everybody. I mean, I know people that have different strategies. They might say, well, like if you actually, my strategy would be if you have a few companies that are really on your hot list, I would talk to them last. I wouldn't talk to them first. Go get your feet wet. Take some batting practice. Go to some of the other companies. Introduce yourself. Just kind of get the feel for how things are going. Then but you're going to pace yourself. Go back and take a break. Sarah, we see people at our job fairs all the time that they'll go talk to some companies, sit down, have a snack. Get a cup of coffee outside, come back in. You can see the people that pace themselves, can't you?
You can, and you can take that time when you're pacing yourself, taking that break, write down notes from the conversations you've had with the companies. At the end of the job fair, you think that you're going to remember everything you talked about with, it's only 7 companies or I only talked to 10 companies. It's going to get all jumbled in your head. So take a break after one or two or three companies, write down all the notes, especially if you've promised someone something. I was supposed to send a resume to this person and now I can't
Mhm.
remember which person it was. And, that could get really frustrating and stressful, right? Plus, as you see on here, at the end of job fairs, that's when you tend to see job seekers that have the really long conversations because most people come to a job fair early on, early in the, 2 to 5 or whatever it is. Toward the end, there's more time. The recruiters have more time to spend with you. So save those companies that you really want to talk with for then. Don't tell the earlier companies, that I'm practicing with you. You don't tell them that.
Yeah.
But and the ones that are super important to you, number one, spend the time with them toward the end of the event.
Or if you need to go back and ask a question, because that one bullet we didn't really
Right.
talk about, don't monopolize the recruiter's time. When it's early and there's all those people and there's people behind you, if you stand there too long trying to talk about stuff, just to be very frank and honest, the recruiter is starting to think, I need to get past this person so I don't lose these other people because they're there to talk to everybody. So don't take up too much of a conversation first. But yeah, at the end, swing back by or go there at the end because as it kind of clears out, they've got nothing to do but hang around, and you get some good conversations that way.
Right,
Um,
right. And I think one thing, Bob, that we didn't mention was for the virtual events. So that's a little different. So there's usually kind of a time cap
yeah.
where job
Oh, yeah.
seekers only have so much time to talk to a recruiter. So make sure that you share the information you need, ask your questions relatively quickly because you won't have all day to have the conversation. Now, if they move it to a full-on phone conversation, that's different. But on the online programs that are used for virtual events, there is a time cap.
Yeah, yeah. And so you will definitely want to grab some good contact information if you feel like you want to follow
Yes.
back up. Yeah, good point there. All right, now the event's over. You went there, you did it. What are we going to do to really cement our winnings here?
Well, we're going to head over to LinkedIn. We're going to make sure we've connected with everyone. Hey, it was so nice to meet you at this particular job fair. I talked to you about this position. I went ahead and applied for the job. If you did that, make sure you give them the title of the job ID number, if that's a thing. But just let the recruiter know, make that connection there because that may be an opportunity for them then to connect you with the hiring manager. And there's no harm in asking for that as well. If you say, is there someone else that I could connect within the company? I have some additional questions. That's a good time to ask that too, don't you think?
Yeah, and you're going to get a lot of people at the job fairs are going to say, well, you need to apply online, and sometimes people think that's a blow off line, but it's not, especially if the company's of any kind of size at all. If they've got more than 50 employees, they fall under specific regulations, and those regulations mean that everybody has to apply online. So sometimes you might even be the A number one candidate, and they love you, and they say you still need to apply online. So if a recruiter tells you, hey, you know what, this is great, I think you should apply. Once you do, when you apply, like Sarah said, send it back there, let them know that you applied, list the job ID number just to make sure that you applied for the right job, because sometimes you may have more than one position, similar title, different location
Right.
or something like that. So they can say, oh, this was Sarah, I met her at the job fair. Yep, that's the one she was supposed to do. Or she might say, oh, that was the wrong one. And if you've used a different resume, like Sarah was saying, let that recruiter know, I went ahead and targeted my resume. The one that you may have gotten from ClearedJobs.Net when you, in your big resume file, was a general one. This is a targeted one. Send them a copy. Those are the types of things that can really help you stand out after the job fair. And these recruiters, they love this because they have to justify their reason for being there too. So if they can get some connections out of this and say, oh, we got X number of people that applied for positions, that they love getting that kind of feedback too. So I think we've pretty much covered all of our tips, Sarah. We've been right at 30 minutes. We got some job fairs that are coming up for ClearedJobs.net. You want to walk us through these next few events?
Sure. So we talked a little bit about virtual events and how they target nationwide and even some overseas opportunities with contractors, that require clearance. The next event is August 22nd. So, go ahead and get registered for that one. And if for some reason you can't make it, that's okay. Not a big deal because, it is virtual, but your resume will go on that digital file. And then from there, we have September 5th, which is Fort Meade area. That's a poly only event. We have the National Cyber Summit in Huntsville, Alabama. So we are partnered with the National Cyber Summit. We hold a job fair. So it's for cleared and non-cleared cyber talent. And then the last one that we have listed here is an all clearance levels event in Northern Virginia. So just like for the August 22nd virtual event, you can register for any of the events that are relevant to you. Because remember we talked about it needs to be relevant, right? Go ahead and get registered and you'll be on that digital file for the companies that are attending.
Yeah, and if you happen to be in Huntsville, Alabama, September 25th, Sarah and I will both be there.
Yep.
If you'd like to connect with Sarah or myself on LinkedIn, we're there. We love connecting with job seekers and with veterans. So by sending us connection requests, it helps you because you could expand your network and things like that as well. And then October 3rd, if you happen to be in the Northern Virginia area, that's an all clearances event. I will be there for that one myself. Sarah will not. We all go to different events for those types of things, but that's what we've got coming up for the rest of the year. So yeah, it's go to ClearedJobs.net, click on job fairs. You can create your profile, register for those events, and great events for lots of different reasons. So at that, Sarah, we've kind of covered the job fairs. Huh? You feeling pretty good about this?
Yes, no, I think this is a lot of great information. And if you have questions, you can put them in the comments parts. I don't know if that's the live feed. And then if not, you can always connect with Bob or I and send us your questions and we'll do our best to answer them for you.
All righty, everybody. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your Monday and good luck on the job fairs and great, best of luck on your transitions. It's a great world after the military. We look forward to having you out here.
All right. Thanks.
We'll talk
Bye.
to you later. Bye-bye.